ॐ ब्रह्म मे तुमां मधु मे तुमां ब्रह्ममेव मधु मे तुमां ब्रह्म मेधया मधु मेधया ब्रह्ममेव मधु मेधया ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. May the absolute truth be realized by us. May the ultimate bliss be realized by us. May the absolute truth, which is also the ultimate bliss, be realized by us. May we realize the absolute truth by purification of our understanding. May we realize the highest bliss with the purification of our understanding. May we realize the absolute truth, which is also the highest bliss, with our purified understanding. Om. Peace, peace, peace. This poem by Swami Vivekananda, as you saw at the end, it was meant as salutations to Lord Buddha, and the special feature of Buddha's teachings that was mentioned here was a fearless search for truth, and that included this aspect that all responsibility rests with me. I have to take up this search, and nobody else is to be blamed for my plight. The great obstacle in search of truth is our tendency to blame others for what we are suffering or why we are not able to see the truth. One important teachings of Vedanta is that it tells you to take the whole responsibility on your shoulders. And when we read the literature of Swami Vivekananda, we see this emphasized again and again. He mentions many times that we have been crying to this God and that God for help. We will never get that kind of help. It is the responsibility is all with us. Oh, help us out, and we keep on praying and crying. But the help can come only from within. The big obstacle in realizing the truth is really we are scared of truth. We say that we want to realize the truth. The question is, are we really ready? Do we actually want it? And if we examine, we will realize that we really did not want it. We wanted a comfortable religion. If the truth is taking away my comforts, then I shirk away from the truth. Not that we are saved thereby from the consequences. Only what happens is that the possibility that we will conquer and realize the truth, that also recedes. because we want a comfortable religion, we want a God somewhere sitting in the heaven on whom we can put all the blame. And why did this not happen to me? Why am I suffering? God is there, He didn't make the things right. Had He made the things right, then I wouldn't have any problem. It was all the blame of God. So, God for us is that ultimate stop for all the blames to come, that everything would go to God. Why God didn't do like this? Why God didn't do that? Or if we do not think of God, we say fate. It was all because of the fate. I tried my best. But because of the fate, it happened like that. My fate is responsible, I am not responsible. Or we lay that all the blame on society. This society is not right, it is cruel society. Or we lay blame on the parents or the family, that they didn't give me what I actually needed, they didn't bring me up well, and therefore all my sufferings. We blame everything, everybody, but myself. And thus the problem persists. It is like this: suppose a car mechanic is dealing with a problem in the car, and then looks at everything except where the problem is, then the car doesn't get repaired. So also our lives do not come on track till we see where the blame is, where the problem is. And if we introspect, the problem is seen with us, no one else but me to blame. The literature of Swami Vivekananda, which teaches many important aspects of Vedanta, especially the non-dual Vedanta, that teaches us fearlessness. Don't be afraid of anybody. Know that what you are suffering is all that you had done. The effect comes to you for whatever you have done. The cause turns into effect. We seek truth, and then we have to therefore accept this law of causation, that this is the cause, and so if the cause is there, the effect will be there. It is a very simple thing, but although we call ourselves very scientific, in our day-to-day life we are not. We want some God to take all the blame. In fact, that is the only time when we think of God. When some problem comes, oh God, till then do we remember God? No, not much. It is when the things are going on fine, there isn't much thought of God. Oh, God did this for us. No, I did that. It is only when some difficulties crop up, when things are not going as I want they to go, then, oh God, what did you do? And while God may say, I didn't do anything, it is what you sow that you are reaping. We must accept this thoroughly if we are looking for truth. It is the claim of many that they want truth, that they do not think of God or anything, but they want truth. But when it comes to seeking the truth, one important idea here is that we should not adopt any slipshod method, as Swami Vivekananda mentions in this book Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is the path of knowledge. And although many of us are attracted to that path, we are not aware the readiness that we have to follow that path. Path of knowledge sounds very attractive. And many consider it to be a very high path. And so I want to follow this yoga of knowledge, path of knowledge. Excellent idea, of course. But then we will have to give up all this weeping and crying and begging to some imaginary God that, oh God, give me this and give me that and give me that. We cannot have both ways. That, well, on the one side, I want to analyze and see the truth for myself, yeah, and at the same time I imagine a God, and according to my imagination it changes. So sometimes it is a cruel God, sometimes it is a nice God, and we keep on begging to that God, crying before that God, and so forth. So, one very important idea that we need to remember, that there is nobody else to blame. If you see that even for our basic peace of mind, this is the great thought, as Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi told in her last message. It is called Last Message, Last Teaching of Holy Mother. She was on the deathbed, and she told a devotee that if you want peace in life, do not find fault with others. See your own defects. And that is the right way to go ahead in life. No one but me to blame. It is a temptation that comes very easy to people. This is not that we do not understand it, superficially speaking. When it comes to others, of course, we quickly understand it. Oh, that person is to blame himself or herself for what is happening. I told him and didn't listen. What can be done? It is so. But when it comes to us, the scenario kind of changes. No. You know that because my neighbors are like that, I couldn't do anything. Except me, everybody in the world is blamed for what's happening. So, if we want to realize the truth, we have to be bold to take up that, yes, the blame lies with me. And that is a very positive thing. It is not that somebody told me that if it is that the blame is with me, then I will keep on blaming myself for everything and I will feel so depressed. No, it is my fault, it is my blame. It is like that. We will be feeling all the time depressed. But actually that is not the case. If we take the blame, then what happens? The solution also is with us. If the blame is with somebody, then that somebody has to correct, change, so that my problem will be solved. So the key for my solving my problem is in somebody else's hands. When the blame is put on somebody, then the solution also is with that somebody. But if I understand that the blame is with me, then this solution also is with me. It is actually a very positive thing, friends, that owning the responsibility. Not owning the responsibility really is the cause because of which we feel depressed and helpless. That what can I do? That fellow is responsible, not me. So, okay, then I have to suffer till because I cannot change that person. It is not easy to change somebody else. So, if the responsibility is not mine, then there is no solution for my sufferings. But fortunately, actually, all blame, all responsibility we should take up. As Swamiji says, we are responsible for what we are, and whatever we wish ourselves to be, we have the power to make ourselves. If what we are now has been the result of our past actions, it certainly follows that whatever we wish to be in future can be produced by our present actions. So we have to know to act. You have to grow from inside out. None can teach you. None can make you spiritual. There is no other teacher but your own soul. People in general lay all the blame of life upon their fellow men, or failing that on God, or they conjure up a ghost and say it is fate. Where is fate and who is fate? We reap what we sow. We are the makers of our own fate. None else has the blame, none has the praise. The wind is blowing. Those vessels whose sails are unfurled catch it and go forward on their way. But those which have their sails, those which have not their sails furled do not catch the wind. Is that the fault of our wind? Say, this misery that I am suffering is of my own doing, and that very thing proves that I will have to be it will have to be undone by me alone. That which I created, I can demolish. I had told you one joke about, I heard it from Swami Adishwarananda, that you have to take care of the problem that you got into, you have to solve it. That in one man, his wife and his mother-in-law, they were on a hunting trip. They had gone in a dense forest with gun and all that to find some wild animal and hunt it. So as they were going, they came into the dense forest, and suddenly the man's wife said, "Hey, John, my mom is not seen. Where is she? We must look for her. What happened? Where did she get out?" And then John got out with his gun, and then both started walking to see where is she. And then they found this old lady in a thicket, with her back to the big tree, and in front was a terrible tiger about to jump. And this lady tells her husband, "Hey, John, do something." John looks and then turns his back and starts walking back to their car. "Hey, what is this?" Said, No, you see, The tiger has himself found in trouble, let him find his way out. So it is, let the tiger take care of itself. So it is, we don't need to interfere. The point is that, well, if we are in trouble, then it is, we have created it and we can get out of it. It is not that some God will drop from somewhere and then help us out. It is the matter of self-confidence. This idea that the blame is to come to me has the positive side of bringing us this self-confidence. Yes, if it was my mistake, I can correct it. So, therefore, stand up, be bold, be strong, take the whole responsibility on your own shoulders and know that you are the creator of your own destiny. All the strength and succor you want is within yourself. Make your own future. Let the dead past bury its dead. The infinite future is before you, and you must always remember that each word, thought and deed lays up a store for you, and that as the bad thoughts and the bad works are ready to spring upon you like tigers, so also there is the inspiring hope that the good thoughts and good deeds are ready with the power of 100,000 angels to defend you always and forever. And this is the what is called law of karma. That yes, it is the effect of my past actions. Nobody else needs to be blamed. But what does it mean? So my present actions therefore will govern my future. The future will be then in my power now, that how I train my present actions, that will create the future for me. Therefore, it is not that because we are not strong, because our claim that we want to know the truth, we are looking for truth, is actually, if we introspect, is a hollow claim. We look for truth as long as it is comfortable. When it starts gnawing into my comfort zone, then I become, you say, okay, truth, let it be there, I want comfort. So, it is, if we are going for the bold search of truth, and we should, because just because we are not looking for the truth, that doesn't mean that truth is not there. Just by not taking notice of truth, we are not saving ourselves from the effect of truth. The truth is there, whether you look at it or you prefer not to look at it, whether you are welcoming it or whether you are scared of it. The truth is truth. It is an objective reality that you have no way of escaping. They tell the nice example of a rabbit being chased by a fox. The fox was chasing the rabbit was running fast, but then soon realized that I can't probably escape this chasing fox. So it buried its head in the sand. So what happened now? It cannot see the chasing fox. But does it mean that the fox is not able to see the rabbit? The fox is going to get that fellow. So whether we acknowledge truth or we refuse to acknowledge, that has no impact on truth. It has impact only on us. It is in our language, there is a nice idiom that, or a proverb, that a cat a pet house cat, they like to drink milk. And then if the milk is kept, a pot of milk somewhere, then the cat jumps there and then start enjoying itself with that milk. But while doing it, what it does is it closes the eyes. So that what it thinks is that now it is all dark. So nobody is going to see me. So, because the eyes are closed, so my closing the eyes does not create darkness. That understanding is not there. So, we close the eyes and then keep on, thinking that it is all dark and I am saved from the impending danger. No, the facts are going to come to us. And we should be told, okay, let them come. Let me deal with them. That is the sign of a true person who wants the truth. A person who is truly searching for this, the ultimate reality, must be bold in that sense that, okay, let the truth come. It is here that Swami Vivekananda has given the example of Buddha. That when Buddha sees that everything in the world is subject to death, it is just a passing show, coming and going. It is momentary. The life is momentary. And so, as he sees it, he decides to give it up and find the path which leads to the abode of bliss, or the abode where there is no suffering. So, he therefore gives up his that kingdom, his young wife and newly born child, and goes to practice austerities. And many temptations start coming to him. Temptations keep on visiting us. When we are strong, then we can resist them. But if we start relying on somebody else, then we succumb. So Buddha was strong. Many temptations came. One very nice temptation came in the form of his very dear friend. And the friend said, "Oh, wow, you have really done good job. I fully support you. I fully appreciate you. What you have done, not many people can do. But tell me," and this is the beginning, that in the beginning you say something very nice, and so then he says, "But tell me, have you found the way to ultimate liberation? Have you found the way?" And Buddha, as matter of fact, he said, "No, I am looking for it. I have not found." "Are you sure that there is something like that?" "No, I am not sure." "Then look, you are a sane person. That which is assured, like your kingdom, your family, and so forth, all your friends, they are there for sure. That is the certain thing. And then whether you will find that way to ultimate liberation or not, it is not certain. So isn't it wise to go for that which is certain than that which is uncertain? Isn't it wise to have the one in hand rather than two in bush?" So it is, and Buddha replied that, "Look, I have seen that there is no hope there. I have seen that it is all vanishing like the bubbles. There is no substance in that. It is only a passing show. On this side, there is at least hope. On that side, there is no hope. And Swami Vivekananda says that this kind of resolve is the beginning, that one can really go forward on this path of knowledge. A path of knowledge is, the name is very attractive, that I want path of knowledge. It is needed to be very courageous to have that. So, therefore, Swami Vivekananda mentions this again and again. When we come to various Vedanta texts, you will see this idea that you have to forge your way ahead. Take the responsibility and go ahead. Do not keep on grumbling. Do not keep on saying that this is what that person should do, that is what that person must do. The question is what I can do. That's it. It is very easy. This temptation comes to all of us. But this is the important lesson, therefore, that no one but me to blame. There is this story in Upanishads, in Chandogya Upanishad, this story comes. There is a very young boy, Satyakam, his name was Satyakama. It is a very illuminating story. Satyakama, he was living with his mother, and he said, well, I want to learn. I want to get educated. I want to go to the teacher. But the teacher will ask me that who is your father, who is your mother, what is the clan that you belong to. I will have to give this. So, can you tell me the name of my father? And the mother said, I don't know. I was at different places. They moved in various houses, and I don't know who your father is. So you go to the teacher and tell him that my name is Satyakam, my mother's name is Jabala, so therefore I am Satyakam Jabal. And now he goes to the teacher, and when teacher asks, tells everything straightforward. He didn't blame his mother that, well, why my mother cannot tell me the name of my father and so forth. Told everything truthfully. And then the teacher said, that is the sign. You have told such a damaging truth about yourself without any hesitation. So you must be Brahmin. Brahmin in the sense that you are now, you have those impressions, those potentials to learn the truth, to get the education. You are truthful. So come on. And then he gives him a spiritual practice. What is the spiritual practice? He gives him a few cows who were all emaciated, not really in good health, because they were not getting good food there. He told him, Satyakama, take these 100 cows and come back when they become 1,000. You take them, these cows and bulls and all, and go to the forest where they can get good food, a lot of nice green grass and so forth. So serve these cows well. And Satyakama goes there. He didn't argue with the teacher, okay, but what about education? I came here to learn. This work you are giving me to just to work like this. What about my education? No, he took it up, and the Upanishad goes on telling, I am making the long story short, that how when it was about the time that they become 1,000, then he heard this Satyakama, he heard a big bull there telling him, Satyakama, now we have become 1,000, come on, take us. But before you go, let me tell you something about Brahman. And so he gets some knowledge about the truth from the bull. And the bull tells, now you go, there you will see a bird. That bird will tell you something. Then fire will tell you something, and so forth. So he gets all the knowledge from this through this practice. He didn't indulge in the game of blaming the teacher. My teacher, they, all others are learning from him. They are given books and all that. And me, I have to run after, chase these cows. No, he did that and learned everything. When he comes back, the teacher says, oh, your face is shining like the knower of the Brahman. And the student, this Satyakama, says, maybe, but I want to hear it from you, sir. And the teacher tells him that, but it was same that he had heard earlier, nothing, not an iota extra. So, this is how a person who is self-confident, takes the responsibility on oneself, goes ahead and realizes the truth. In Bhagavad Gita, in very well-known 6th chapter, that saying comes. These two verses are very important about this self-responsibility. It says, Uddhared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet. Always lift yourself by yourself. Never depress yourself. Never let yourself think in negative terms. Always be positive. Uddharet, bring yourself up. Nobody else is going to bring me up. I keep on thinking, some angel, some God, some friend, somebody will propel me up. But no, it is I myself have to pick myself up. If I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. It is a very important teaching. And then it says that, look, you yourself are your best friend, and you yourself are your worst enemy too. Nobody else is your enemy. Not your teachers, not your family members, not your neighbors, not the government, nobody else. Well, you yourself are your worst enemy. But you yourself are your best friend also. Atmaiva hi atmano bandhu, atmaiva ripuratmanah. And it elaborates further that when is the self the best friend? It says when the mind is conquered. When the mind that is just running about here, there, purposelessly, and is not able to be under control, then at that stage you are your worst enemy. Imagine that it is a car that you are driving, and then it is not under your control, going at big speed, then that's your enemy. because it is not under your control. But if it is under your control, then it is your friend. So it can take you where you want to go. Otherwise, you want to go at one place, but you are taken in some other direction, and then you injure yourself and whatever. So that is when our mind is not controlled, we injure ourselves, nobody else. And if the mind is under control, then that is our best friend. There is nobody else. So this is what the Vedanta tends to teach us, that do not create a bogey of some God sitting somewhere and then controlling everything, and then we have to be always scared of that God and keep on praying, oh my God, forgive me. Well, there is nothing like that. It is, if you have done something, then, well, the results are going to come to you. It is, no God is going to save you from that. It is against the nature of the truth. It is therefore very important to take up this challenge. Those who want to realize truth in life, therefore, have to, it is said that, again I quote from Swami Vivekananda, that is what Vedanta teaches. It does not propose any slipshod remedy by covering wounds with gold leaf, and the more the wound festers, putting on more gold leaf. This is in reference to the earlier paragraph where he says, and I know that it used to be, at least in my case and maybe with many, as I was a little child, and used to run about, play here, there, and get scratches and wounds and all that. But then I would try to hide it from my mom. Because then mom will, hey, come on, I will apply medication, tie it here, don't go there now to play for 5 days and so forth. So I would just cover it up. But what would happen? It would become worse. And then after 3 days, I wouldn't be able to walk, I would be limping. Hey, what happened? No, mom, there is something, I can't therefore walk. Let me see what happened. Oh, it is not today. So, like that we try to patch up, cover up, are not bold enough to take the curative measure. It is, this fear comes to many. We pile up the work, I have seen that it is my case and many others I know, that okay, we'll do it later. What happens? It keeps on getting piled up. Then we are scared to even to look at that. Many, when they have to submit the IRS that returns, okay, then there is still time, okay, and then I don't know, and then where to begin? The problem is that where to begin now. So, why? Because we kept on covering instead of taking the right steps. We knew what the right step is, but we are scared to take it. So, Swamiji says here that we keep on covering the wounds by putting gold leaf, nice leaf. We say nice words, very nice. It is, the world is so nice, okay, I just met my son, so good, he is doing fine, and then that is good. And we forget our search for truth. We get ourselves immersed only in the passing show. Do not take up that responsibility. We think that, well, some guru or some God will come and shower some grace on me, and then everything will be fine. This is not the method that this path of knowledge teaches. This is therefore for those who are bold, who are courageous, who have the courage of calling spade as spade. So, Swami Vivekananda continues, this life is a hard fact. Work your way through it boldly, though it may be adamantine. No matter the soul is stronger. It lays no responsibility on little gods, for you are the maker of your own fortunes. You make yourself suffer, you make good and evil, and it is you who put your hands before your eyes and say it is dark. Take your hands away and see the light. You are effulgent. You are perfect already. This is an important thing that we need to emphasize, that we are divine. Our true nature is divine. So, Swamiji says here that you are perfect already. From the very beginning, we now understand the verse. He goes from death to death who sees the many here. See that one and be free. See the ocean, the one. Not the waves which keep on rising and falling. We are so attached to the waves that we start crying if it is going down and going to merge with the ocean. Well, that is the nature of wave. The nature of manyness is that it keeps on shifting, changing. There is no substance to it except the ocean. That ocean, the truth, we have to have the courage to hold on to it. Sri Ramakrishna used to tell a story that Swami Vivekananda has repeated too, that a king was sitting in his parlor and a holy man enters. And then the king said, oh sir, please show me the path for liberation. And that sage, he embraced a pillar there in that court room. There was a pillar, and he held that pillar with all his strength and started screaming, "Oh, release me from this pillar!" And all those in the court started laughing, naturally. They said, well, you yourself have held that pillar. Let it go, that's it. Let it go. So, who is holding us? Nobody is holding us. It is, I hold this world and then keep on crying that this world is so bad. It inflicts so much torture on me. It is such a big imprisonment to be here. All this, who is doing it? Nobody else. No one but me to blame. Thank you, friends.